You may have seen Reno May's video. You may have seen Tiberius Gibbs' video. But this week you're seeing my video and my first impressions on Bear Creek Arsenal. Stick around and find out what I think. Alright everyone, here it is, the Bear Creek Arsenal, and I believe this is just a BCA-15. Like I said, it's got a normal charging handle, none of that side charging. It's 16-inch. Bear Creek Arsenal did send this to me kind of on the house for testing, and I really appreciate that because there's a lot of things that you guys request that I review that, one, I'm not really interested in purchasing myself, to be honest about things, and then two, this is a very costly kind of hobby that I have here. I don't know if anyone's seen the video, but last year I spent, like $25,000 of my own money to film these videos, which most of you would probably tell me I'm an idiot, and you'd probably be right about it. But I have fun doing it, and I hope that you guys get value out of it. So that's why I'm doing these videos. But Bear Creek Arsenal, this is the first gun that has ever been sent to me as far as like a testing thing. So that, I really appreciate it, Bear Creek Arsenal. And this is going to hurt a little because I appreciate what they've done, but I'm honest. You're not going to buy me with things. And there's a couple things that I thought were better than I was expecting with this, and a couple things that lived up to the reputation that I've been hearing. So let's start talking about it and my experience. So I've taken this to the range now, 2 separate trips. I've put a total of 11 mags through this right now. And then 3 rounds on top of that, and we'll talk about those. So let's talk about first trip out, my experience. I did an Instagram post, if anyone saw it, where I was like, hey, I was surprised because I put this SIG, what is it, the MSR on here, very cheap red dot. I want to say this is like 70 or 80 bucks, something like that. Threw this on there, got it dialed in, and I was hitting steel at 170 yards, this 4-inch plate. It was ringing out. I was hitting 6-inch plates. I was stacking these things. Someone at the range actually said, what did that plate do to me, because it was getting rung. I was actually really impressed with how accurate the barrel was and the consistency of it. Once I got it dialed in, like it was really easy to drop rounds in a somewhat small target. If you think about 4 inches at 170 yards with just a red dot and astigmatism, and especially a cheaper red dot, and I'm just using 55 grain Callaway remanufactured. The ammo is great. I've said it before. I did a video on Callaway. The ammo is great. This barrel and the accuracy and consistency impressed me a lot. It is carbine gassed as a 16-inch gun, which I'm told was how things used to be. When I first saw it, I was like, what's going on here? I'm used to, like these 12.5 mid gases or something like that. But doing my research, spending a lot of time on the internet, I think I could probably say that I've been wrong. I see that V7 does a lot of carbine length on like their shorter guns. They don't mess around. And Sons of Liberty Gunworks, I know that they do mid-length on the 16-inch, but there's those people that do like rifle-length 16-inch, and that's just ridiculous. Don't do that. It's not going to be good. You can always go a little bit shorter with the gas, but not too short, and then just throw in a better buffer. So the recoil impulse on this is a little stout. So my Type A's, are dialed in. They're 11.5 and 12.5s, and they have a lot less recoil than this, which is a 16-inch gun. And it's because there's a little bit more gas, but also just kind of the way it is. It just recoils more than I was expecting. I thought with the 16-inch it would be softer shooting, that sort of thing. The trigger isn't bad. It's a mil-spec trigger. I've shot a lot of mil-spec triggers. I was able to do work with it, and that's all that matters. You know, I don't need a match-grade trigger to have match-grade results. So yeah, had fun with that. There's a couple things I did change out, so let's talk about that. It came with just a standard kind of carbine buttstock. I threw my BCM on here. I had this laying around. It's very comfortable. It came with an A2 grip, which I threw a B5 that I had laying around here because the Driven Arms one sucks that I have laying around here, and I'll add that. But I don't fault them for that because there's so much personal preference in grips and stocks. I mean, I'm one of those people that I actually like the Daniel Defense furniture. I know that so many people buy a Daniel Defense and switch that out. So it is preference. So I'm okay if they cut corners on that stuff because they know you're going to change it out anyways. The other thing I did is I shot it suppressed almost the whole time. I think the whole time. So I shot it suppressed the whole time with my Hux Works. I believe I had the 762 Ti on here, which was the Helix because it was an OSS. That's how old it is. But I didn't want to risk my 5.56 cans with this gun, so I opted for the larger bore and maybe a little bit better flow through. I did not get like gas to the face or anything like that. The flow through cans do such a good job of mitigating that. If you don't have a flow-through can or a high-flow can or whatever they want to call it nowadays, a low back pressure can, you should get one. They're great, and I would recommend that to everyone. So yeah, it went well. The first time I took this out, though, I made an Instagram post, and I was surprised with how accurate and consistent it was shooting. 3 rounds after I made that post, it seized up. I couldn't get the round out. I actually had to mortar it in between, like, when we were at the range, they're like, hey, we'll go hot again so that you can mortar it. We don't want, you messing with it when we're on a cold range or anything like that. I go, that's fine. And I really had to hit it probably 6 times, mortar it, got the shell out. There was a dent on the primer, but the whole time it wasn't in battery. Like, it wouldn't go into battery. It was like kind of locked into the chamber, the round was. Oh, excuse me. And the round had all sorts of, carbon around it when we finally got it out. So maybe shooting 90 rounds in relatively quick succession with a suppressor got it a little more gunked up than we wanted it. And that's what's happened. One thing I will say, too, I don't just do factory oil. As soon as I get a gun, I field strip it, I clean everything off of it, and I put on a good quality oil to my guns because I'm not looking to run some 1,000-round stress test of how much lube, Jim put on it at the factory. No, I want a gun that I know that I've cleaned, gotten all the residue off, any factory machining type chemicals, taking those off, and put on a good quality oil. Reed Hendricks does a great video on that. Check that out if you get a chance. But yeah, so this thing, I had it lubed up, had it cleaned out. I'm not sure why it seized up. I took it home and I gauged it to see if there was any head spacing issues because I was a little nervous that there was a dent on the primer, but it wasn't quite in the battery. Everything seemed fine. I took it out for trip number 2. I went through another 8 mags in relatively quick succession. I was taking my time. It was a nice day. I was just shooting at steel, ringing it out, letting it cool down a little bit in between, like at a halfway point or something like that, letting it cool down a little, not trying to push it extreme, like burn down type phase stuff. But everything went well with that until I went to pick it up and put it back in my vehicle after it had been cooling off. I grabbed it by the handguard, and that's when this happened. So there's about 3 screws in the handguard that have come loose with this gun. And, you know, before I started asking Bear Creek for this, before I hit them up and said, hey, can you help me out? I wanted to test this. A bunch of my people on my AR tier list were asking for it. And they said yes. I did a little bit of research, and a lot of people said, like, as soon as you get your Bear Creek, like, take everything out, all the screws, and Loctite it and put it back in. Which I don't think you should have to do as a purchaser, but it seems like that's the real sentiment here. You know, we got this handguard that's shifting. It's not coming off, but you don't want to mount anything to it. And they got an interesting handguard too. They remove a lot of that rail section out for saving weight. I'm okay with that as well, because there isn't a lot that you put up there necessarily that, especially on the Bear Creek Arsenal. I doubt that people are buying a BCA and putting like a mall on their gun. That would be very, very meme-worthy, and I would salute whoever takes that photo. But there's not a lot you put there in general, so I'm okay with them cutting the corner there. But yeah, I really wanted this to do better than it has. From an accuracy standpoint, I think their barrels are pretty impressive as far as what I could get out of them. I'm sure there's probably someone that shoots 600 yards on a regular basis, and they would have a better opinion, a more informed opinion than me. But shooting 170 yards, or what I would consider typical engagement distances for a civilian, I think that the barrel's plenty accurate. The issues I've encountered, I haven't encountered on any AR-15 ever. Like, I've never had, like, just my handguard, like, come loose like that. I've never had to mortar an AR-15 until now. I've seen plenty of videos on how to do it, how to run these drills and that sort of thing, and, you know, what happens if you have a failure like this. It was the first time I actually got to legitimately mortar an AR-15. And that's not a good thing, unfortunately. So, with this Bear Creek Arsenal initial review, I can't recommend purchasing it. It came in at an astounding low of like $370 is what you're looking at with this sort of thing. But I can't recommend it. It's just, unless you're just going to range toy it out. Like, if you're just going to range toy it, okay. But even then, be very safe and be very skeptical and be very observant, because things are probably going to happen and you're going to need to address them. Otherwise, it could potentially cause some sort of safety issue. And I wouldn't want that for any of you. So as of right now, I can't recommend it. I'm going to try to tighten down these screws, put some more rounds through it, see how it holds up, and then we'll go from there. But Bear Creek Arsenal, if you're watching this, again, I appreciate you sending this out. I hope that you can work on the things that I've pointed out. Honestly, the seizure that happened with the first gun where it locked up, I can't attribute it if it was ammo or the gun itself. I've never had that happen on any other gun, though, with that ammo. So, you know, it could just be a coincidence or not. But if you're watching, you know, just make sure that you Loctite things, tighten them down, things are secured, you pay your due diligence. And I think if you do that enough and often enough and on a consistent basis, that you might be onto something. But right now, we're just not there yet with things. And that's a nice way to put it. You know, it's not there yet. I appreciate what they're trying to do is offering an extremely low budget-friendly gun. But with budget-friendly guns, you get budget-friendly issues. People can say what they want about me buying Gucci ARs, Type A's, Blackout Defenses, but those things run like sewing machines. I took those things out, and it's wild. There's a lot of guns too now that are in that 1,000 to 1,500 range that are ultra reliable. You get so many bells and whistles that if you're gonna stake your life on something, I would bump it up to that range. That's where you're looking, is probably that 800 to 1,700 range. The 1,700 on the high end for certain purposes. But if you're going to bet your life on a gun, I think that's the price you're going to have to pay for one to be as reliable, consistent, durable, do all the things. This is a range toy, and it's not a well put together one at that. I'm sorry. Sorry, Bear Creek Arsenal, but I'm an honest person. The barrels impressed me, the accuracy, but the QC and the issues did not. All right, everyone. If you had an experience, leave a comment. If you've had a good experience, leave a comment. I'd like to hear round counts on these things if you've had to do anything to them. But thanks for watching, and take care. I'm sure you'll see this on the new AR tier list later this year. Yeah. Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend.